Andrew Urquhart with you on the program today. Humanitarian organisations Tearfund and World Vision have been lobbying the government to introduce anti-slavery legislation in New Zealand. And honestly, it's a bit of a catch-up game. Other parts of the world, the UK, Australia, Canada, they've got this legislation in place. Why are we catching up in this space? Well, joining us on the program now is Head of Advocacy for Tearfund, Claire Gray. Kia ora, thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Firstly, for some people, they'd think, well, yes, we know human slavery, trafficking, this is a situation around the world, but that happens in other countries, doesn't it? Why do we need this legislation in New Zealand, Claire?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And yes, you're right. It does happen in other countries. There's 50 million people globally who are trapped in slavery. And it does happen here in New Zealand too. And the legislation that we are asking the government to introduce will apply to both the domestic and the international supply chain operations of companies. So we're going to try and cover all our bases, right? So we're going to get some of that really horrific stuff that happens offshore, but we also want to make sure that we are addressing whatever slavery and exploitation is happening in industries here in New Zealand.
Yeah, it's such an important thing to do. And to be fair, I think whatever political party you're from, whatever political affiliation you have, I think everyone's anti-slavery, right? This is something we can agree on. And you would think it would be a no-brainer for the politicians to say, well, certainly we're against slavery. Let's make sure that this legislation happens. And there's been some positive noises from government to say, yep, we're going to do this, but still waiting. And we're getting quite close to an election, I noticed.
Yes, that's right. And you are right. This is a really great issue that we can come together as Kiwis and unite together around. And we have had expressions of support across the political spectrum for this issue. We know that it's something that Kiwis don't stand for, regardless of their political affiliation. Absolutely. But yes, that hasn't quite translated to action to the point where we want it. We have made a lot of progress over the last 3 years. There has been huge displays of support from Kiwis, from petitions to making submissions on the government's proposed legislation. And we're at the point now where there is a bill ready to be introduced into Cabinet, and that is what we're waiting for. And we've been waiting for a while. And we're asking the government at the moment to stop delaying introducing this modern slavery legislation. We want to see it introduced to the House before Parliament breaks for the election.
I mean, there was a guarantee from, formerly Minister of Everything, now Minister of Nothing, Michael Woods, that this would happen before Parliament broke this year. It would happen before the election, but I mean, he is no longer the Minister of anything. There's been a changing of the guard for some reasons I won't get into now. Are you still confident that this is going to happen? I mean, we've got the politicians' attention. They all want us to like them at the moment. Do you think that this is going to happen? Are you remaining optimistic, Claire?
I am hopeful. You have to stay hopeful in this work.
Yeah.
I think we have the most recent communication that we have had, which was from the Prime Minister to our colleagues at World Vision, it was optimistic. It was wait and see. Something's just around the corner. And it's great. It's good to hear that. We just really need to see that translating into action. And we're also really encouraging the National Party to get behind this legislation. This is something that can have bipartisan support towards it. If we do see a change of government towards the end of this year, we would love to see the National Party commit to continuing the work and building on the last 3 years worth of work and continuing to try and implement some robust legislation into New Zealand.
I mean, one of the challenges of this, of course, because yes, it is an election year and the politicians are all saying, hey, look at me, vote for me, pick me. However, I suppose the challenge is making this an election issue. All of the political parties are saying, oh, look, we want to look tough on crime, or we want to do something about the inflation rate and all those sorts of things. However, this is where, power to the people, we get the chance to talk to our politicians and say, hey, you know what, for me, it's an election issue. I would vote for people who wanted to push this legislation through. And hey, Claire, you're head of advocacy. This is something that all of us can do, not just the aid agencies. All New Zealanders that are listening to this, that are watching this, who are saying, yep, slavery, not in my lifetime, let's do something about it. They can advocate with their local MPs, with politicians. In fact, you've got a bit of a system, a petition that they can get on board for this one.
Yep. We have an open letter at the moment that we are planning to give to the Prime Minister. And it is just people expressing their support again and asking the government to stop delaying. But for people that want to take more action, you can sign that open letter, but there is more that you can do. You can write directly to your local MP. You can request a meeting with your local MP. You can bring this issue up. I know the politicians will be doing their election circuits, going around to different towns. Go to the meetings, put your hand up, ask the question about modern slavery legislation. We have so much power in our political system, and we shouldn't be afraid to use it.
Yeah, and especially at this time of the year. Now, if people wanted to find out more about this, there may be some people that are going, gosh, I hadn't heard about this. Why isn't this in the news more? Information available at the Tearfund website. People can find that open letter. They can connect. They can get the information they need to talk to their local MPs.
Yeah, absolutely. People can find a lot of information on Tearfund's website, which is tearfund.org.nz. You can find the open letter there, and you can also find a lot more information about modern slavery as an issue, how prolific it is, how our own day-to-day purchasing decisions and consumption habits actually feed into this issue. So there is a wealth of information on there.
Yeah, no, such good stuff, and really appreciate and value the work that Tearfund does in this space. And yeah, I'm glad you made that point at the end. Let's not just pick a fight with the politicians. We can also do something against modern slavery with what we do with our purchasing decisions, how we live our life. Claire, thank you so much for your mahi. Thank you for the work that you do at Tearfund. Thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks for having me.